What's up, guys? Tech and Sports and I, Daily Refinement, are actually going to have this podcast in its full form today because we think it's a really powerful episode. So we don't have it behind the paywall, but we do appreciate those who support us on patreon.com/the Resellers podcast. So please sign up for that if you guys have a chance. And let's get straight into the episode. We appreciate your guys' time. Let's do it. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Resellers podcast with Tech and Sports and Daily Refinement. Today's episode is about what all resellers really need to hear. And we're definitely here to inspire you guys today. And the point that we want to get across is that this is guaranteed to work, but there's a lot of work involved to get this started and get it off the ground. And Tech, I noticed from listening to him over the years that he uses the word guarantee a lot. And when you use that word, it either means yes or no. People don't guarantee things unless they are certain. And there's one thing I learned the most about you over the years is that there is no do it or not do it. You're always on.
Yeah, for me, I'm very binary. It's yes or no, on or off, black or white. There's no gray area for me. There's no kind of, there's no sort of, or anything like that. And when I do say guarantee, like we spoke about a couple weeks ago, like I've never seen a person who lists consistently every single day quality items, quality listings that complains about slow sales or no sales. And I know you've talked to pretty much every single reseller in the United States and beyond. And the people who say that they have no sales are the ones who aren't listing consistently. You've never seen anyone who lists consistently quality products who has slow sales.
We even talked about this before the call. You don't even necessarily need quality products. Just
Yeah.
consistently listing correctly. If you look at the big guys, they don't have a single Gucci, Louis. They don't have any of that. They have basic $20 products.
Yeah, because for me, if I'm listing like 1,000 or 1,100 items per week, like I've found all of the perfect items around me. So now I have to find like vintage items that may have a flaw. And now that has to be acceptable for me because I can't find 1,000 or 1,200 items per week that are going to be perfect. So even for me, I'm not listing perfect items, perfect quality, but if it's a vintage shirt, it can have a flaw or a hole or something like that, and that's acceptable. But if it's like a Vineyard Vines and it has a flaw or a hole, that's a different category. But even me, like the stuff that I list is not always perfect. But if you get it up, there's a customer for everything. So like there is a buyer for an imperfect shirt or a distressed shirt, and no one's ever going to sell it if it's sitting next to your computer unsold.
So you really inspired me a couple of weeks ago by saying that you have over 20,000 hooks in the ocean and they're all baited and ready to go. And I was just thinking to myself, man, you cannot have a bad day when you have that much stuff in the water. You're going to make sales.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible, especially for me. I have a lot of the same bait per hook. So if someone comes and they want Harley shirts, like I have 600 of those. So I get a lot of repeat buyers because I have a large inventory that carries all the same kind of items. So that's really helpful as well. So if you're just throwing hooks with no bait, it's hard to catch a fish, or have no hooks at all. It's hard to catch the fish. But if you have 20,000 hooks in the lake, and the guy next to you has 150 hooks, I'm going to catch 99.99% of the fish in that lake just because I'm casting a wider net.
And this is such a good example because we've met people that have very little resources. There was a lady that messaged out to me, didn't even have a printer. She had to go to the library to print labels, just getting started. So she didn't even have a fishing pole. She was just out there with a spear trying to figure out how to catch fish. And then now she got a printer and like quadrupled her productivity because she was doing it the hard way before that. She was just making it work. And that's kind of what it takes sometimes in the beginning.
Totally, absolutely. Whether you have to wake up early, whether you have to go to sleep later, whether you have to work around your kid's schedule or your work later or your work schedule, if you want anything bad enough to work, you're going to find a way for it to work. So even for me, like my son is about to turn 18 years old. I've been on eBay for 10 or 12 years. A lot of the growth that my business did was when he was younger. and revolved around his schedule and his activities. A lot of long nights, a lot of early mornings, but at the end of the day, that's really what it takes to grow this business and any business.
And we definitely want to stress momentum. That's the whole point of this episode. If you start building positive momentum, you're not going to want to lose that momentum. You're moving in the right direction. You're going to keep pushing. And in that beginning, though, it's just like the rocket analogy. It takes 1,000,000 gallons of fuel to get out of the atmosphere, but then it's smooth sailing once you can get past that initial point. But it takes a lot of energy to get started.
Absolutely. For me, what kind of helps me with the momentum is that I look at everything kind of like a scoreboard, like an old scoreboard in a stadium. And like every time my listings go up a day, like my score is going up, like I'm beating the other team. Every time the bank account goes up, like I'm beating the other team. Every time any type of measurement can go up, like I'm beating the other team. So I just have a scoreboard in my mind for all of these metrics. If scoreboards work, great. If you can plot out a graph, that can be huge. You plot out how many listings you did today, how many listings you did tomorrow, how many listings you did the day after. And as long as your graph is going up, you're only going to be more successful. You can plot out your sales, you can plot out your bank account, you can plot out how much time you spent. And as long as that graph is heading up, you're only going to be more successful. Because I have a lot of businesses, but I've never had a business that's going to reward you for the amount of effort that you put in. And eBay is bar none. The amount of effort that you put into eBay will reward you. There's no doubt about that.
This is awesome because if you're keeping track, what gets measured gets improved. And if
Mm-hmm.
you look at it and you see, okay, I'm averaging about 10 a day, and you think to yourself, okay, what could I do to list 12 a day?
12. Get the
And
graph going up any kind of way.
any kind of way. And you'll look at you'll start writing stuff down. Okay, what if, I don't actually have any chairs in my listing area because I found out if I sit down, there, 15 minutes, half an hour goes by for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm there, I might as well just be moving as quickly as possible. Remove the distractions one at a time. You only need a little bit of an improvement to go like 10 a day turns into 50 a day, one at a time, in under a
Absolutely.
year.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the graph is a great idea because if you're honest with yourself and you're plotting the graph honestly, if you see a lot of flat line or a lot of dead days, like you have to come to a realization and say, look, man, I got to get this graph to where it needs to be. Like I said, whether it's listings, whether it's sales, anything can be can be graphed out. And like I could lie to you and say, man, I did my listings today and I'm only cheating myself, but like the graph is not going to lie, like numbers are not going to lie. And I think just by having something so simple as a graph on your desk where you mark down how many listings, how many sold, I guarantee you, and here I go again, guarantee you, I guarantee you, if your listings go up, what's going to go up after that?
Your sales.
Your sales go up. So
Yeah.
have a corresponding graph, and I guarantee those graphs, if you overlap them, they're both going to go up.
So I met this lady that her goal was to get her husband home from work. She wanted to work with her husband. He hated his job, and she's like, I need to grow this to a certain point. So she put that graph on the
Mm-hmm.
shower door, and she's like, okay, we need to get here for you to
Absolutely.
quit your job. And she's like, every day that we went in there, if a week had gone by and it wasn't making any progress, then he would
You
be
got
like,
to do
do,
better.
do you really want this?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not moving. You have to be here for me to quit my job, and then we're not there yet.
Yeah, it seems so silly, but like 3 or 4 days can go by, and you kind of give the okey doke effort, and like it doesn't mean anything. But if that graph is like taped right to the wall behind your computer, like you got to look at that every day, and like you can only take so much of that before you say, I got to get this graph moving in the right direction. And it seems corny, it seems lame, but that's the kind of stuff that I did in the beginning, and it helped out tremendously.
I've seen. I mean, this advice of writing down how many listings you need to get done on a sticky note, and then you put that on the front of your phone. No one will do that, but that's all you need. You don't need
Mm-hmm.
anything more complicated than get this done. And it's funny that I follow a lot of people, and that advice guaranteed would work. But who's going to do that? Who's going to say my main goal today is that listing and get it done?
It takes a tremendous amount of self-discipline, which a lot of things in this business take a tremendous amount of self-discipline and holding yourself accountable. And you have to be very good at both of those things. Otherwise, you can get easily sidetracked. Someone who's easily sidetracked is going to have a tough road.
This is why, we were talking about before the chat, is this harder than people think or not? And I think after talking to you before the call, it's actually just different. When you're working a 9 to 5, somebody else has set up the structure. You show up at this time, you punch in, you do these things, you go home at 5 o'clock. They design that. When you work for yourself, you design it. You come up with when you get to work, what you do. And if you don't do that, it's easy to slack off. People do just, job is just over broke. You can't treat this like that. This is not just over broke.
No, especially if you want to replace your job with this, you like we've talked about before, you have to put the same amount of time and effort into this if you want to replace your job. Otherwise, it's not going to be able to replace it.
I want to switch gears a little bit here to Walmart. We talked about Walmart, and you read Sam Walton's Made in America, which I think is required reading if you want to be in retail. Essentially, all resellers are in the business of retail.
Hmm.
This gentleman made $100 billion for his family. He was so rich that everyone related to him was the richest person.
Hmm.
He
And
did
still are.
everything. Yeah, and still are.
Still are. Yeah.
So, you know, on along that line, there is no shortage of items that are only a few dollars profit, and that's what he built his business on.
Yeah, the biggest thing that struck a chord with me is he said that even if he reduced his prices, he's going to sell more items, and by selling more items, he sells more money. And that kind of hit me about 2 or 3 years ago. And same thing like what Monica Poshhanger says, she's not in the storage business. And that kind of hit me real hard too, that I don't want to be in the storage business. I want to be in the selling stuff business. So if you have to take a smaller margin here or there, the more items you sell, the more money you're going to make. And there's no shortage of items in America. We are like most wasteful, most gluttonous country in the world. There is no shortage of inventory. There's no shortage of quality inventory. So nothing we have for the most part is special. So if you get an offer and you have profit, you made margin, flip the item, get the money, buy two more items, and rinse and repeat. So, holding on to stuff, you become a storage business, and we can't be storage businesses. We have to move the inventory, acquire more inventory, list that inventory, sell that, and then acquire more inventory. That's the name of the game. You just got to keep the ball rolling, and again, the momentum.
And we want to talk a little bit about overhead. Overhead increases every year. And one thing that takes care of that is volume, is sales. So sometimes you see people, I used to call it chasing pennies, where
Hmm.
people start selling cheaper items. Those people generally make it though. They survive, even though their ASP may drop a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have an average sale price of $100 per item, but I don't know where to find that many quality items that are going to sell for $100 at scale and that are going to be affordable to buy without sinking in a bunch of money. So, like you said, you have to start, chasing pennies. You have to, as you grow, as you scale, because once you find all the quality items that meet your criteria, you either go home or you step it down a notch and say, okay, these items are still profitable. I still make margin. I'm still going to make all of the money that I need on this top line quality items. This other stuff is extra. Once you max out that, the bar below, okay, now this is extra because I'm already making my money on that top line. And like for me, I need roughly 1,100 to 1,200 items per week, and my average sale price is $28. So like I can't find $1,250 items per week. Like I haven't been able to do that for an affordable price. Um, you can spend $40 all day for $50 items, but you're not making any money. So the average sale price, as long as you're having margin, as long as you're turning your inventory, just try to turn the inventory as fast as you can. As long as you have margin, sell the item, buy more items.
Yeah, this is a great point. And I think another point that really blows my mind when it comes to you is how much time I have wasted thinking about whether or not I want to list an item. If you acquired the item for really cheap or you thrifted it or as a garage sale, your actual money investment in the item is so low. Don't waste hundreds of hours of your time thinking about whether or not to list it. If you just list it and just keep going and forget about it, because it's going to get absorbed into your store. Someone's going to make an offer, take the offer and move on, get that flow. And eBay loves stores with velocity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as you've paid the money to buy the item, just get it up and get it sold, even if it's small margin, no margin, large margin, because it doesn't make sense to sink a bunch of money into inventory and then never list it, because no one's going to come knock on your door and try to shop your unlisted inventory. Like, I've never heard that happen before. And I've never gone into like a brick and mortar and say, let me shop the items in the back room that aren't on the shelves. So like, if they don't put the item on the shelf, we can't buy it. And if we don't put the item on eBay, nobody can buy it. So, you have to get the items up. Once you buy them, buying is the easy part. Doing the work of getting the item up, that's how you make the money.
I think we need to touch base also on what you mentioned earlier, which was if you measure how many items you're going up per week, like 1,000, when you want to increase that, you naturally start being more specific in what you buy. You naturally sell in less categories. So in the beginning, you're selling whatever you find. But
Yep.
as you try to increase how many items you sell, you start to realize, okay, I can't sell 1,000 totally different items.
Or just certain niches, like we talked about last night. When I started selling on eBay, I sold a lot of electronics, a lot of cell phones, a lot of sporting equipment that I would get at garage sales and whatnot. But if I was just in like the baseball glove and baseball bat niche, I don't know how to get 1,000 baseball gloves per week. So I had to figure out, in order to grow this thing, what niche do I need to be in that's going to be the easiest to grow, that has the most abundant items for the best buy cost. And as we know, people just totally discard clothing. They think it's worthless. But if you know the right stuff, it does carry value. So if you ask me if I can scale a baseball bat or a baseball glove store to 1,000 items per week, I don't know how to do that. I know that clothing is everywhere, and I know that that's a niche that can be expanded unlimited. Because right now, I probably get 2 to 3 thousand pieces of clothing per week. Some of it goes to the brick and mortar, some of it comes to me. Other stuff I do other stuff with. If I wanted 20,000 pieces, I could probably set up the channels in order to get it. There's unlimited growth in some niches. And if you want to grow your business, you have to focus on a niche that is going to present you with unlimited growth. So, like baseball gloves, I don't know if you can grow that to 1,000 items per week.
This is a really good point because there's only a few categories where you could grow unlimited. You could grow unlimited in clothing. You could grow unlimited in media. The people who
Mm-hmm.
sell books and there's no limit. You could get books for almost free. If you were
Yeah.
a listing maniac, you could probably list 1,000 CDs or DVDs or books a day.
Yeah.
If you had that system of being able to price for that, it's always the pricing. If you had a real if looking up the pricing would slow you down, but after a while
Yeah. You
that's
would
where
kind of know which ones you need to look up and which ones are basic. But like you said, media and stuff is that people don't care about, it's discarded, but some of that stuff still holds value, just like clothing. You thrift store and you shop the racks. I probably pull 1% that's acceptable. The other 99% stays at the thrift because it's no good. So, you know clothing, media, you can probably scale like something like baseball cards pretty good.
yeah.
Anything that's like mass produced that you have to have knowledge to know what holds the value, that's something that you can scale pretty good. But a lot of these niches, it's going to be very, very difficult to scale up.
One of the categories I saw, if you look at a thrift store, this is essentially stuff people threw away. 80% of the items are women's clothing. That's actually for sure the largest category to scale. The biggest store, BHFO, was doing 65 million in a year, just women's clothing on eBay, only women's, not even men's. And if you go into a thrift store, you can tell right away which categories could scale. Definitely women's clothing. Men's clothing still scalable. All those household goods, you would need to be careful. You would need to be like there's you could make $1 million a month for sure selling microwave parts if you knew that, if that was your niche. Because how many people have a microwave? How many people are looking for a deal? You would just have to be really good at it. That's the
Totally.
e-recycling is a massive industry, but you got to get into it.
Yeah. Again, something that's overproduced, but if you have the knowledge on what's worth the money and what's not, that's something that you could really make a killing on. So like clothing, a lot of it is not worth anything. But if you have the knowledge to go, okay, this shirt is single stitch, it's a vintage ACDC shirt, like that makes all the difference because the guy selling it at the flea market or the garage sale, it's just a shirt to him. So you have to acquire the knowledge that comes with, time, with experience, with education, and all of those tools now more than ever are at our fingerprints, whether it's Instagram, whether it's YouTube, whether it's online. Nowadays we got it pretty good, man. When I started, there was no smartphones, there was no one selling on YouTube. It was just straight up trial and error. And the old fashioned way is still a great way to learn, but there's so many tools in our disposal that literally you can start today, and every single item you buy can be profitable because you can look it up in the store, and if it's not profitable, you leave it. You can start today, and every single item you bring home, you're going to turn a profit on if you do the research before you leave the store. And I don't know any other business on the face of the earth that's guaranteed profit if you do the research before you acquire the item.
One more thing I find fascinating is when you get into your niche, you start to find secrets and clues that only you know. Like, for example, you know that certain clothing items will still sell if they're damaged, if they're stained. You don't just know, there's no way you would know that if you just started. You would have no idea which ones qualify and which ones don't.
Yeah, and you know how you learn that? You buy one that you didn't know it had a flaw, you take it home, you still list it, and guess what? It sells. And that's the only way you figure that one out.
Yeah, you'll see there's a documentary about jeans. It's called Blue Gold. There are jeans that have basically disintegrated because they're
Yep.
so old, but they sell for 20 grand because
Yeah.
it has that somebody's looking for it.
There's a buyer for everything, man. Everything.
So I just want to bring one more example of that. I just talked to a gentleman today with 9,000 items in his store, all cosmetics. So he's like, when cosmetics expire, they actually can't be sold on Amazon or retailers. That's it. They're done. They're essentially worth zero. So somebody who's been using a certain cosmetic for a while, they were going to want to continue to use it. So I realized that early in the makeup game that I can get this stuff for 95% off, 98% off because they're just throwing it away or donating it. I can now wait until all the supply at the store is sold out. And now people looking for that, they got to pay close to retail again since I'm the only one that has it. So he's built up 3 or 4 years of this makeup. It's amazing, but he got really into it and learned all that in that niche.
Yeah, absolutely. The discontinued product, almost every product has a huge following. Like they discontinued Tab for Coca-Cola.
Hmm.
They're selling for $100 right now.
That's right.
Like everything has a cult following, whether it's fabric softener, dishwasher detergent. And, that guy has found a way to scale it. But, that's something that you kind of a little bit of luck, a lot of bit of research, but even still, that stuff, it does command a premium because people are attached to it.
We wanted to let people know that this may not take as long as you think. This makeup guy has been doing it for 3 years, and he told me today that he just barely poked his head out of water. He's like, I've been swimming for 3 years straight, and I just poked my head out of the water to see if other people are doing this. And I noticed that you have a YouTube channel with literally hundreds of thousands of people are doing this. But I think it's important to recognize that because he was so focused for a while, the store grew. If you don't pop up to read the media or news and you get locked on a niche and just keep going, you don't forget the noise. It's only going to take a couple of years for you to build something huge.
Totally, because I've been on eBay 10 or 12 years, but the first half of that was selling electronics, selling cell phones. I kind of got out of that game because it got a little bit complicated. But I've only been selling clothing since 2014. And 2014, I knew absolutely nothing. I was very green. So I wouldn't say like I didn't start getting rocking and rolling until 2015, 2016, and that's 4 or 5 years ago. So in such a short amount of time, just by, like you said, head down, almost being addicted to the success of growing a business, I've been able to grow the clothing business in 4 or 5 years from zero to this year, probably 1.5 million in sales, probably between 4 and 500,000 at my brick and mortar store. So this year, close to $2 million in sales in used clothing for a guy who was very green 4 or 5 years ago.
And I want to stress that the main reason this is possible is because eBay will deliver you the traffic.
Absolutely. They spend billions and billions of dollars with Google. Everything is set up. I think their final value fee is roughly 10% as a bargain for everything that they offer you. They offer you a place to ship. They offer you a resolution center, an email client, picture hosting. They drive traffic. Like there's nothing else. Billing, like there's nothing you could ask for 10%.
Yeah, that's why this is scalable. Because if you think about having to go find a customer, that
Yeah.
doesn't work. The age old saying is location, location, location. That doesn't apply when you're selling online.
No, if you had your own website and had to drive your own traffic, every time an item sold, you have to manually take it down. Like just them taking down your items every time they sold is priceless. Because if you had to manually take down every single sale, that's all you'd be doing all day sometimes, and you'd never have time to get items back up. So you'd have to learn search engine optimization. You'd have to process your own payments. You'd have to find your own picture hosting. You know how much picture hosting costs? It's a tremendous amount of money, man. Tremendous.
Yeah, all these expenses and infrastructure. And now it's not like even I started 4 years ago now. Now the information on suppliers is insane. You can figure out where things come from. All thrift stores have their own online stores now. They have wholesale. There's companies going direct to the customer. You can buy directly from Patagonia. You can buy directly from anyone. You can set up the right channel. I just spoke to a gentleman who has a direct deal with Luxottica. They own all the eyeglasses brands. So he's been buying up all the returns. He taught himself how to fix eyeglasses. He's like, they come to me in 1 out of 10 condition, and I sell them on eBay for 8 out of 10 condition. And he just got into the niche. All this information is out there, but you can be paralyzed if you do too much thinking. You really just got to get listening to figure out what works.
Yeah, totally. And what works for one person isn't going to work for the next person sometimes. But, you know, as long as you buy quality items, close to quality items, get them listed, list as much stuff as you can, the sales are going to follow. There's no doubt about it.
And definitely reach out to us if you really are listing and you're listing with accurate market pricing and you're not having the sales. Reach out to us, because that's like our favorite thing to do, is figure out what's wrong. But it's usually that you're not listing or you're out of tune for what the item should sell for.
Yeah, there's a lot of that also. But like we said earlier, like there's no shortage of this kind of stuff, especially for the clothing. So you also have to keep that in mind. Because like for me, I have a small store, and if you're waiting around for $30 for this item and someone offers me 20 or 22, like it doesn't matter that much to me. I can sell it because it's one of 200 today. So you have to remember you're competing, and even me, I'm competing with larger stores who can go by on smaller margins. So like I have to keep in mind that like this shirt that I have, it's not the only one on eBay most times. So if the customer doesn't get the price that they want and feel like they're getting a deal, the shopper has the opportunity to go elsewhere. So if you have the buyer on the line, you know, reel them in, make the sale. Even if it's not what you want, reel them in, make the sale with that money, buy 5 more items and keep it rolling.
That is such a good point. How replaceable the item is important when you, like, if you're grinding somebody over $2 and you can go get that item again right now, why are
It
you
doesn't
doing that?
matter. But
And
if you're selling a Picasso, then hold out. You know what I mean? But like I don't have Picassos. You don't have Picassos. We have stuff we can literally go in any store in America or any thrift store or any garage sale, any yard sale, flea market, and find that item again. I've sold items many times that, guess what? I got in the door again the same day, the same exact item I've sold and gotten back in the same day. numerous amount of times I can't even count.
That's so funny. When you look at the Picasso, it can't be sold online. You have to
No.
get somebody in person. You got to get that emotion super hot and fiery for someone to even pay that kind of money. If you have an online store of only Picassos, you're going to have really slow sales. It's
Yeah.
not how grails are sold. They're not
No.
sold like this on eBay. eBay is not the right platform for it.
Totally. And even at my brick and mortar store, like I have the grails, they're reasonably priced underneath market, and I might sell a handful a month. I'll sell, 4,000 regular items per month, and those 4,000 get immediately replaced because there's really nothing special about those. But for the grails, even though they're under market, they still don't move the same way.
That's amazing. If you guys want to get an idea of just like where all the sales are, you can go to a Dollar Tree, you can go to Ross, you can go to Old Navy, you can go to Marshalls, and just for an hour look at what people are buying. I guarantee you it's under $20. They're
Totally. And
not they're not buying expensive stuff.
all those stores you've named, I've been to. I've never been inside a Gucci store or a Louis Vuitton store or anything like that in my entire life. Like there's more people who shop affordably than just spend money on expensive stuff. There's way more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm just thinking about the average sale price at Ross is like $12. And if you just add shipping to that because someone doesn't really go for doesn't want to go to the store. Now you're looking at that's like more than half of the sales on eBay are just that one category. Oh, actually, I know what it's called. This category is called everyday value. There's
Hmm.
no shortage of everyday value items in the world.
No, no, because everyone uses them and they're mass produced.
And I guess you can develop the secret sauce is developing the consistency and a streamlined process to get them listed.
Yeah, 100%. The consistency is the biggest key because you can have the most streamlined process in the world. And if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter. So, consistency is the biggest key in all of this and with anything really. And streamlining the process is the number two key and the biggest key.
I was just listening to this running coach this morning. He was talking about the first mile is going to be really ugly. Your body's not used to it. You don't know. We're trying a new technique or something. It's really ugly. But after about an hour or so, it's almost like it's natural. So give yourself some time to get good at it. You're not going to be good at any of this stuff in the beginning. It's going to be ugly and not make sense to you. Like as an example, switching from listing on your phone to listing on your computer is super awkward.
Yeah.
But after an hour, give yourself an hour of trying it and you'll start to develop some momentum. The second hour is always easier than the first hour.
Yeah, totally. And that's with everything. Like, if I stood you up against a 99-mile-per-hour fastball and you've never done it, you stand no chance. But if I gave you training for 3 to 6 months, you go in there, you're more confident and you actually got a shot at it. So it just takes practice with everything. And in the beginning, like I was only listing a handful of items per hour or, per day. I just made sure to get up every single item that I bought that day. And in the beginning, you don't know a lot of brands, so you're not able to buy a lot of stuff. So if I went to the thrift and I found 5 items, 7 items, 12 items, like I was pumped and excited that I found those items to get them up online and get that sale. That I always listed everything that I got for the day until it reached the point where I was getting way more than I could ever list for the day. But if you list everything that you get that day, even if it takes you 10 hours to do it, that's just the practice. You have to practice the skill. Listing is a skill, everything is a skill, and you have to practice it.
If you consistently list 50 items a day, you would have more money than you could spend, most people. And if you just listed one item more than the last week and you started at one this week, after a year, you would be a 50 item. In a year, you could be where you couldn't spend the money you make. Plus, as you said in a previous call, you wouldn't even have time. You'd be so busy and the momentum would be so strong. You would just be doing the right things. You wouldn't have time to spend it.
Yeah, like for me, I I enjoy working. I love doing this. I love working all of the businesses. It's what I enjoy to do. And I don't have time to like go out and like blow money or spend frivolously. So I'm head down on everything. And just when you're head down on everything, like everything has momentum, everything snowballs, everything is growing. So, you know, when I decide like Forrest Gump, like I don't want to run no more. Like you have all of this stuff that's still rolling and still set up and still ready to go where you know, puts you in a good spot.
Yeah, this the momentum is just so key. And in the average millionaire drives a Toyota, not because they can't afford a nicer car, it's because they're the most reliable. They actually pick cars that break down the least because they don't want to spend time going to the shop. And it's very common. They're interested in things that last a long time. They buy everyday value.
Hmm.
You see them all the time. When I used to work at a Lexus dealership, if somebody came in a Toyota Camry dressed in normal clothes, they can pay cash
Hmm.
for sure. That's the person.
Yeah, totally. For me, like not a lot of stuff frustrates me, but I do get frustrated by wasted time. Like today, like I know what I got frustrated today for some crazy reason. Oh, I know why. Everything is set up for me. Like I do the same thing every single day. I park in the same spot when I go to a plaza. Like everything I do is the same. Yesterday, when I came home from the warehouse, it was pouring down rain. It never rains in the morning hardly, but it was pouring down rain. So that messed up my routine for getting out of the car. Got out of the car, ran inside. When I went to leave for the warehouse this morning, could not find my keys. Usually they're right on my desk next to the computer. Every single time, never have not been there. I wasted about 10 minutes looking for my keys today, had to retrace my steps. They were still in the car from the day before because I'm so programmed to have a routine that the rain threw me off. And today I lost 10 minutes of time. And when you're on the grind, when you're 24/7 focused, losing time due to anything is the biggest frustration, especially when it comes down to silly mistakes like that. And like, I'm so like you, like we do this call at 7 and I arrive at 7 on the nose, military precision. Like everything I do is just precision. And it's just because it's such a routine. Like even getting out of my car is a routine that the rain messed up my routine. And I left my keys in my car for the entire night, as crazy as that is, in the ignition all night.
Well, I mean, this is awesome. Being mediocre is a routine too. Everything
Absolutely.
is a routine.
Yeah, yep.
You get used to being average.
Yeah, I totally agree. And all that can be changed. Like I can go to the mediocre routine and that can become my new routine just as easy as you can turn it on to another level and not be okay with being mediocre and develop a routine that's better than that.
The exception to the rule is how what gets people in trouble, because if you decide, okay, you know what, today I'm going to take off, or today I'm not going to list, that becomes your routine. And
Yeah, cuz
I was listening to this Olympic lifter. He was like, every day when I wake up, there's a film crew there. Like, what are you going to do at the weight room today? So I go there and do it. I'm always on camera. My entire life is a routine that's designed until the Olympics happen. It's the same day. I live the same day over and over and over again. And that routine, okay, well, what he was trying to say is success is his routine.
yeah,
He's like,
totally. And for that guy, he has the camera crew in his face every morning. So he has to do it. There's that accountability of having to do it. He can't wake up and say, "Guys, I'm out today." Because guess what? And he can't be that guy because he has a bar to live up to. Like I have a bar to live up to with myself that I have to get up to 250 items per day. Like I'm accountable to that. So everyone has to have that accountability, and everyone has to have that bar to some sort of accountability to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do.
it's definitely your loved ones. Like you were saying, how your why is your family. That's the most powerful. What can't just be for you? It doesn't work.
No, no. If I was doing this for me for selfish reasons, like then you're just a psychopath or something. But like none of this is for me. Like I told you, like I don't have anything fancy or anything like that, but my family has everything that they need and more, and that's the biggest thing that matters.
So I want to leave people on this thought of the volume because at this point I've been at 10,000 listings now for a few days and realized that 10% sell through rate of me selling 1,000 items in a month, even if used clothing is more money than my bills, and that's on a slow month. And I feel like this should be the hope at the light at the end of the tunnel. If you can build your inventory up so big that you have so many hooks in the water that you're just going to make sales no matter what, it's very different. When you're at that stage, you can just focus on, I guess it's like a, I don't know, because I feel like I've never worked harder in my life, but I don't have any stress.
No stress as long as you have a goal and you have a focus. So like you said, once you're selling more stuff than you can even reinvest the money into, it's that much more easy to focus on growth and to focus on, bigger and getting better at stuff, because you don't have that weight of, I have to meet this goal of money, I have to meet this goal of sales. Once your store gets big enough and you do have those sales coming in, like there's no sweat on anything. The sales are going to come. It doesn't matter.
All right, guys, we're going to leave you on that thought. We want you guys to progress and improve every single day. This is guaranteed to work if you do. It just takes some time in the beginning. You don't have these routines because you've been doing something different. Maybe you had a 9 to 5. You've got to replace all those old habits with new ones and just keep growing. Keep your head down while you build this up. And when you look up for air in a few years, you're going to be in a place that you never dreamed that was possible. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.